it's Lisa. I got a full tank and the Queen's in the back, so hop on in and let's hit the road.
Today I thought we would explore Cleveland. When my family moved up here in the 70s, Northeast Ohio was known as the Rust Belt, and Cleveland was known as the Mistake on the Lake and the Big Dirty. We started our trip by visiting one of the iconic Cleveland script signs. There are 5 of these scattered around the city. Edgewater Park, where we were on the west side, another in the Foundry area just south of downtown on the west bank of the Cuyahoga, downtown at the North Coast Harbor at Voinovich Bicentennial Park, on the east side in the Tremont area, and the Euclid Beach area. We stopped at Edgewater Park, a city beach on the west side with a great view of the downtown area, which is where we were headed to next. Cleveland was established on July 22, 1796, by surveyors of the Connecticut Land Company when they laid out Connecticut's Western Reserve into townships and a capital city. They named the new settlement Cleveland after their leader, General Moses Cleveland. Cleveland oversaw the New England-style design of the plan for what would become the modern downtown area, centered on Public Square before returning home, never again to visit Ohio. The settlement served as an important supply post for the U.S. during the Battle of Lake Erie in the War of 1812. You can see a display of the battle on my video of South Bass Island. Locals adopted Commodore Oliver Hazard Perry as a civic hero and erected a monument in his honor decades later. The village of Cleveland was incorporated on December 23, 1814. In spite of the nearby swampy lowlands and the harsh winters, the town's waterfront location proved to be an advantage, giving it access to the Great Lakes trade. It grew rapidly after the 1832 completion of the Ohio and Erie Canal. This key link between the Ohio River and the Great Lakes connected it to the Atlantic Ocean via the Erie Canal and the Hudson River, and later via the St. Lawrence Seaway. Its products could reach markets on the Gulf of Mexico via the Mississippi River. The town's growth continued with added railroad links. Prior to the Civil War era, Northeast Ohio was home to a vocal group of abolitionists. Cleveland, codenamed Station Hope, was a major stop on the Underground Railroad for escaped African American slaves en route to Canada. The city also served as an important center for the Union during the American Civil War. The Cleveland Greys were organized on 28 August 1837 as an independent volunteer militia company to bolster the local constabulary and to protect the city in case of invasion from Canada. Originally called the Cleveland City Guards, the membership decided that the organization's name should be taken from the color adopted for their uniforms, gray. So, in 1838, the company became known as the Cleveland Greys. Simultaneously, the members adopted the motto Semper Paratus, which means always prepared. The city also served as an important center for the Union during the American Civil War. The Greys were the first company to leave Cleveland during the Civil War. Today, the purpose of the Greys is to preserve the military heritage of Greater Cleveland, promote patriotism and good fellowship. The organization is headquartered at Gray's Armory circa 1893. Decades later, in July 1894, the wartime contributions of those serving the Union from Cleveland and Cuyahoga County would be honored with the opening of the city's Soldiers and Sailors Monument on Public Square. The Soldiers and Sailors Monument commemorates the American Civil War. It consists of a 125-foot column surrounded at its base by a memorial room and esplanade. The column, topped with the statue of the Goddess of Freedom, defended by the Shield of Liberty, signifies the essence of the nation, for which Cuyahoga County veterans were willing to and did give their lives. The upper esplanade is made of red Medina sandstone and features 4 large bronze statuary groupings: mortar practice, at short range, the color guard, and the advanced guard. The bronze statuary groupings stand atop Berea sandstone pedestals and depict scenes featuring the 4 branches of the armed forces at the time of the Civil War. The color guard honors the infantry and is the only statuary that depicts a known battle. Levi T. Schofield, the architect, who served in the 103rd Ohio Volunteer Infantry Regiment, chose to depict the 103rd engaged in the Battle of Resaca, Georgia. This was largely considered to be a Union defeat, and the grouping is Schofield's memorial to his regiment and the men lost in the battle. Every figure in this grouping has been killed or wounded. At short range honors their artillery. An officer is seen attempting to aim a cannon, unaware that 2 of his men have already fallen. Mortar practice honors the Navy and features no casualties. It depicts a scene near Island Number 10 on the Mississippi River, where an officer and 5 men are loading a mortar, in preparation for the shelling of the entrenchments. The advance guard honors the cavalry. It depicts a Union detachment that has encountered enemy troops. A Union trooper, still astride his injured horse, is seen firing his pistol at an enemy soldier at point-blank range. Another Union soldier is seen aiming his carbine southward. A bugler stands at the edge of the scene, summoning help for the embattled Union soldiers. As part of the original designs of the Soldiers and Sailors Monument, the flower beds surrounding the structure were decorated with the insignias of the Corps badges used throughout the Civil War, as well as various other military imagery. These designs were maintained in some form for much of the history of the structure until the 1988 redesign of the southeast quadrant, which changed the layout and position of the gardens. The more modern shape of the gardens that came out of the redesign of Public Square in 2016 resulted in additional changes to the exterior landscaping. While the Corps badges insignias are still included in the design of the north and west beds, the south and east beds now incorporate other designs such as GAR badge, a patriotic swoosh, and an anchor. The Old Stone Church, long a downtown Cleveland landmark, has a congregation dating back to 1820. Officially known as the First Presbyterian Church of Cleveland, it was founded at a time when Cleveland was a village of a few hundred people. As Cleveland has grown in size and importance, the Old Stone Church has kept pace, becoming a symbol of spiritual leadership, community involvement, and stability in the heart of the city. The first church building was dedicated in 1834. Since it was made of gray sandstone, it became known as the Stone Church. As the sandstone darkened, it was later called the Old Stone Church. A slightly larger structure was constructed in 1853 on the original site as Cleveland began to grow rapidly. The city was one of only 2 stops for the Lincoln funeral train in 1865. The other was Columbus. A service of thanksgiving was held at the end of the American Civil War, with the new peace bell being raised in the belfry. When Abraham Lincoln's cortege stopped at Public Square, people were called to his memorial service inside the church. A pew where mourners wept still stands in the church to this day. No other president stirred the imagination of the American public like Abraham Lincoln. From his humble beginnings to his dramatic death, Lincoln's life and times have seeped into the mythology of the country. His name, face, and deeds are memorialized in hundreds of American cities, including Cleveland. Lincoln visited Cleveland only twice, once in life and once in death. There are no extant photos of his first visit, which occurred on February 15, 1861, when Lincoln was on his way from Illinois to his inauguration in Washington, D.C. Contemporary newspaper accounts captured the excitement as crowds gathered at the elegant Wendell House on the corner of Bank, West 6th Street, and Superior Avenue to hear Lincoln speak from the balcony. The staunchly Democrat Cleveland Plain Dealer briefly put aside its political bias to celebrate the historic occasion. The Plain Dealer spent much of the next 4 years criticizing the president and his policies, but it once again put politics aside to mourn Lincoln's death in April 1865. The slain president's funeral train arrived in Cleveland on the morning of April 28th. The casket was then drawn by horses and carriage to Monument Park, Public Square, followed by a procession of dignitaries and veterans. Thousands of Cleveland area residents gathered in the rain to file past the open casket. Lincoln was in the news again in Cleveland in 1923, as plans for a local memorial were debated. Controversy arose over the choice of sculptor and the location of the statue. After much debate, however, the statue ended up on Mall A, in front of, but now behind, the Board of Education building, which became the Drury Hotel in 2016. Cleveland school children donated pennies and nickels to fund the statue. The memorial was unveiled with great ceremony on Lincoln's birthday in 1932 and served as the location for Lincoln's birthday celebrations for many years afterwards. Known as the sixth city due to its position as the sixth largest city at the time, Cleveland counted major Progressive era politicians among its leaders, most prominently the populist mayor Tom L. Johnson, who was responsible for the development of the Cleveland Mall Plan. The era of the City Beautiful movement in Cleveland architecture also saw wealthy patrons support the establishment of the city's major cultural institutions. The most prominent among them, the Cleveland Museum of Art, which opened in 1916, and the Cleveland Orchestra, established in 1918. A symbol of the constant effort for peace, the Fountain of Eternal Life, erected in 1964. Sometimes referred to as the Peace Arising from the Flames of War, or simply the War Memorial Fountain, stands a towering 46 feet in the air. It represents a stylized man escaping a pillar of twisting flames that bursts from the earth below him. Stretching up towards the sky, the earth is banded with symbols of the zodiac, and it is completely dwarfed by the man in his quest for peace. In the circular fountain pool, there are 4 granite slabs, each representing a different geographical region. Europe's section shows a reclining female nude caressing 2 dogs that growl at a nearby fawn. The Asian section shows an elderly man in a traditional hat holding his ground against a couple of sea creatures. The Asian section shows 2 people praying and worshiping an elephant deity, while another man in traditional garb reclines, making a symbolic gesture. Finally, the American section shows an alligator behind 2 mourning men. A third man embraces a traditional Mesoamerican mask. The figures in all of these murals transcend time, signifying that conflict and struggle have plagued our world forever. The piece was originally commissioned and installed as a memorial for veterans of World War II and Korea from the greater Cleveland area. However, it underwent several rededications and now serves as a memorial for any greater Clevelander who has been pronounced dead or missing in war between 1899 to the present. However, by the 1960s, Cleveland's economy began to slow down, and residents increasingly sought new housing in the suburbs, reflecting the national trends of suburban growth following federally subsidized highways. Industrial restructuring, particularly in the railroad and steel industries, resulted in the loss of numerous jobs in Cleveland and the region, and the city suffered economically. The burning of the Cuyahoga River in June 1969 brought national attention to the issue of industrial pollution in Cleveland and served as a catalyst for the American environmental movement. Completed in 1927 and dedicated in 1930 as part of the Cleveland Union Terminal Complex, the Terminal Tower was the tallest building in North America outside New York City until 1964, and the tallest in the city until 1991. The 2 newer skyscrapers on Public Square, Key Tower, currently the tallest building in Ohio, and the 200 Public Square, combine elements of Art Deco architecture with postmodern designs. Cleveland's architectural treasures also include the Cleveland Trust Company building, completed in 1907 and renovated in 2015 as a downtown high-end supermarket, and the Cleveland Arcade, sometimes called the Old Arcade, a 5-story arcade built in 1890 and renovated in 2001 as a Hyatt Regency hotel. Known locally as the Emerald Necklace, the Frederick Law Olmsted-inspired Cleveland Metro Parks encircle Cleveland and Cuyahoga County. He is best known for his design of Central Park in New York. In addition to the Metro Parks, the Cleveland Public Parks District oversees the city's neighborhood parks, the largest of which is the historic Rockefeller Park. The latter is notable for its late 19th century landmark bridges, the Rockefeller Park Greenhouse, and the Cleveland Cultural Gardens, which celebrate the city's ethnic diversity. Just outside of Rockefeller Park, the Cleveland Botanical Garden in University Circle, established in 1930, is the oldest civic garden center in the nation. In addition, the Greater Cleveland Aquarium, located in the historic First Energy powerhouse in the Flats, is the only independent freestanding aquarium in the state of Ohio. Cleveland's Playhouse Square promises evenings of splendor, with each of the district's 4 primary theaters boasting an elegance that reflects a bygone era. But prior to 2014, the street outside failed to fully reflect the grandness that the theater district's historic buildings contained. The plan started in earnest back in the early 90s to bring vibrancy into the neighborhood. Along the way, the idea of a chandelier came up. When it was installed above the intersection of East 14th Street and Euclid Avenue, some of Cleveland's officials worried that the GE chandelier, the world's brightest outdoor version, would dazzle drivers into accidents. But since May 2, 2014, the light fixture has only increased traffic from curious travelers. From start to finish, the chandelier, which is made of stainless steel and holds 4,200 acrylic crystals, took a year to make, with help from Montreal lighting manufacturer Lumid. It's unbelievably stable, and the beams suspending the piece can support up to 5 times its weight. Sometimes winds up to 50 miles an hour come down East 14th Street, and the chandelier doesn't move. The crystals sway a tiny bit. The chandelier was also designed to require minimal maintenance once installed and is cost efficient for its size. Its annual electric bill totals less than $1,000, which is in part due to its LED lights and timer. It is set to go on 1 hour before sundown and stay on until 1 hour after sunrise. At that rate, the lights need changed every 10 years. Playhouse Square includes the State, Palace, Allen, Hanna, and Ohio theaters within what is known as the Cleveland Theater District. The center hosts Broadway musicals, special concerts, speaking engagements, and other events throughout the year. The Hope Memorial Bridge and the coveted Guardians of Transportation are lasting Cleveland icons. The Cuyahoga River has always posed a logistical question in city planning as Cleveland has grown: how to get vehicular traffic across the Cuyahoga River from the east side of the city to the west side without disrupting shipping. One of the most dramatic responses is the magnificent Art Deco masterpiece completed in 1932 as the Lorraine Carnegie Bridge, today the Hope Memorial Bridge. The name was meant to honor the father of entertainer Bob Hope. A notable feature of Lorraine Carnegie Bridge is 4 massive stone pylons, embellished with 8 figures representing different modes of then-current transport, known as the Guardians of Transportation, remaining a focal point of the bridge to this day and the inspiration for the new name of the Cleveland baseball team. Cleveland has 2 main art museums. The Cleveland Museum of Art is a major American art museum with a collection that includes more than 40,000 works of art, ranging over 6,000 years, from ancient masterpieces to contemporary pieces. The Museum of Contemporary Art, Cleveland, showcases established and emerging artists, particularly from the Cleveland area, through hosting and producing temporary exhibitions. Both museums offer free admission to visitors, with the Cleveland Museum of Art declaring their museum free and open for the benefit of all people forever. All told, there are 25 72-inch versions of Auguste Rodin's The Thinker. Of these, fewer than 10 were cast and patinated during his lifetime. One of the last Rodin-supervised casts can be found in Cleveland, Ohio, where it sits directly in front of the Cleveland Museum of Art. This cast was acquired in 1916 and given to the museum in early 1917, just after the museum opened to the public. The museum's large cast of The Thinker has a unique history that highlights some of the ethical and practical issues inherent in the field of conservation. First displayed in the museum's rotunda, it was soon moved outside to the museum's south entrance. Once the sculpture was outdoors, it began to corrode almost immediately, changing the color and appearance of the metal. Over the years, hand-rubbing, wax, and commercial oil preparations were used to protect it. Then in 1970, the sculpture was severely damaged by a dynamite explosion. According to the Cleveland Police Department, this act of vandalism was committed by a cell of the politically radical Weather Underground that was operating in Cleveland at the time. In the aftermath of the bombing, the museum considered 3 options. 1. Obtain and display a replacement cast. 2. Repair the sculpture by welding on newly cast sections to replace the areas that were damaged. 3. Mount and display the damaged sculpture. All 3 options were problematic in some way. With the first, a new cast of the complete sculpture would be removed historically from the original, which was so closely connected with the artist. A recast, in essence, would be a reproduction. With the second, distortions caused by the dynamite blast would have made it difficult to align the replacement sections with those in the original. The third option was chosen largely because it preserved what was left of Rodin's original work, and because the damaged sculpture would bear vivid witness to a period of political unrest in the United States during the Vietnam War. Like the museum's other outdoor sculptures, the Thinker now receives routine maintenance twice a year. It is washed and re-waxed each spring and fall. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on the shores of Lake Erie, Cleveland, is home to the I.M. Pei-designed Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on the Lake Erie waterfront at North Coast Harbor downtown. Inside and outside the museum are presented special exhibits. When we were there, the outside exhibit was the tour bus of country singer Johnny Cash. The license plate for me says it all, J. Cash 1. The bus was used during the last 2 decades of his career. Johnny Cash purchased the bus in 1979 in Columbus, Ohio from MCI. The frame is the same frame used for Greyhounds and was customized by Land Cruiser Customizer. It was restored in Grove City, Ohio by Creative Mobile Interiors. It is estimated that Cash spent $553,000 in 1980 dollars on the custom bus. The bus was sold in July 2003, just 2 months after June's death and 2 months before he passed away. He said after June's passing, the bus held too many memories. This is the largest outdoor stamp in the world. It is located in Willard Park, downtown, adjacent to the City Hall. The dimensions of the sculpture, 28 feet by 26 feet by 49 feet. The sculpture depicts a rubber stamp with the words "free" in its stamping area. The work was commissioned by the Standard Oil Company in Ohio in 1982. The piece was originally designed to stamp upright with the letters of the reference to the Civil War era soldiers and sailors monument. The artist said the stamp message "free" referred to the emancipation of the American slaves during and after the Civil War. In 1991, BP donated the sculpture to the city of Cleveland. The stamp was modified to sit on its side and was dedicated on November 15, 1991. Cleveland's current major professional sports teams include the Cleveland Indians, Major League Baseball, now the Guardians, Cleveland Browns, National Football League, and Cleveland Cavaliers, National Basketball Association, and the Cleveland Crunch, Major Arena Soccer League. Local sporting facilities include Progressive Field, First Energy Stadium, Rocket Mortgage Field House, and the Wolstein Center. The Cleveland Indians won the World Series in 1920 and 1948. They also won the American League Pennant, making the World Series in 1954, 1995, 1997, and 2016 seasons. Between 1995 and 2001, Progressive Field, then known as Jacobs Field, sold out 455 consecutive games, a Major League Baseball record, until it was broken in 2008. Chief Thunderwater was born amid the thunderous sound of the Niagara on September 10, 1865, in the hut of Two Kettle on the Tuscarora Indian Village in Lewistown, New York. Cleveland became his home during the first decade of the 20th century. He came to be known among white men as Chief Thunderwater and built an impressive career as a business leader and civic booster while maintaining his native identity. As a member of the Pioneers Memorial Association, Chief Thunderwater led a long crusade to save the Erie Street Cemetery from relocation desecration, with a warning that should the body of cemetery resident Jock Osott ever be touched, a terrible disaster would befall Cleveland. It would not be his last or even most famous prophecy. He also claimed, ex post facto, to have seen a vision in 1948 correctly predicting a World Series win by the Cleveland Indians baseball team. It is unknown whether the chief was sincere or if, understanding the strange condition of Native people in modern North America, he was merely playing the expected role of mystic. After all, Thunderwater had an agenda. By the time of his death on June 10, 1950, Chief Thunderwater had become something of a ceremonial celebrity in Cleveland, at least in part thanks to the name of the local baseball team for which he rooted near the end of his life. "May the best Warriors win as long as they are Cleveland's," he declared prior to the Indians' 1948 World Series win. Some claim he is the inspiration for the team's racially insensitive Chief Wahoo mascot, an indignity imposed on the memory of a handful of other Native American Clevelanders. Chief Thunderwater, Henry Palmer, is buried at Erie Street Cemetery, a place he helped preserve, along with the unmoved grave of Chief Jock Osott. Jock Osott, also known as Walking Bear, 1810 to September 3, 1844, was a Native American of the Meskwaki tribe. He fought in the Black Hawk Wars, in which he was wounded. Feeling the effects of old war wounds, he was on his way home via a goodwill tour when he fell seriously ill and died in Cleveland. His gravesite has attracted attention since his death, both because of his story and as a result of local superstition. Jock Osat's supposed ghost has been held responsible by the superstitious for losses by the Cleveland Indians baseball team. Accordingly, tokens of atonement have been placed on his grave in order to deflect game day interference. Well, I hope our travels through Cleveland has helped to dispel the myth that it is a mistake on the lake or the Big Dirty. As we discovered, it is a vibrant and diversified city with much to see and do. Please like, share, and hit that bell.